Welcome to the March Home. I'm Brian Anderson with my co-host Amy and our special guest today, Miss Allison Voisin. How are you today?
I'm awesome. Thank you.
So I got to tell you, we're extremely lucky to have Allison on the show. When our last episode, we had Craig Gross and
Right.
Chris Blaine. And both of them talked about accelerated resolution therapy. And if you guys don't know Allison Voisin, the clinical director at the Veterans Alternative, then I will give you a little bit of backside information on her. She is the best when it comes to one of the therapies I love the most, accelerated resolution therapy.
Can you tell us a little bit about what ART is, Accelerated Resolution
absolutely.
Therapy?
So the basic way to break it down is it's storytelling. Have you ever watched the end of a movie or the end of a TV series and been like, why did it end that way? It doesn't
Yes.
resonate with you. It doesn't fit. Yay, nay.
Yeah.
That's how I felt about the last episode of Dexter. But that's like a whole
I know.
other, whole other show.
Did you have a dream or something of how you'd rather it go?
Yes, but I'm not going to be a spoiler for anybody who wants to watch it on Netflix.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, so don't
we'll
ruin
talk
it.
about
It's a
that
good
when the
show.
camera cuts.
Okay.
But with accelerated resolution therapy, what you have the opportunity to do is to tell your story in a different way, to see it in a different way. And, because we're made up of all these different stories that we collect over our lifetime, when one doesn't sit well with us, when it doesn't resonate well with us, it causes damage.
It can stick with
When-
you.
It can
and-
stick with you.
When you
So-
say when a story doesn't resonate, like for our audience, can you give an example? What do you mean by that? Like an event in life, or what is it?
Well, specifically because I work with veterans, a lot of people, when they go to war, they come home with a lot of unresolved pieces. They come home with a lot of different traumas because they've lived some difficult stories. So with ART, we go in and we find a different way to be able to tell the story.
So almost traumatic events. Is that what you're talking about?
Exactly.
Like, hey, someone's in a firefight and a teammate passes away,
Yeah.
or something of that nature. Okay.
Exactly.
So when they're thinking of a different story, so guys, I got to first all say, I do accelerated resolution therapy. It's a therapy that saved my life. When she's talking about telling a different story, one of the things that I had a problem with, I would actually drive down the road and I would see my teammate Calvin driving in a car next to me, or I would have images of bullets going through my head or rage going through the door. I just couldn't get over that. But I still remember everything that's happened. It was kind of like a daydream that I brought in, and it helped me kind of compartmentalize, or not even compartmentalize, but move that story somewhere else. Like instead of invading me in the here and now short-term memory, it was stored in long-term memory.
That's exactly what we do. If you go back to that, storytelling piece, you're always going to have that information of what really happened.
Right.
Yep.
But you're going to consistently turn to the version that makes sense for you, the version that you deserve to have. So everything gets stored in long-term storage as opposed to kind of being in the front of the brain, being accessed all the time, being triggered all the time.
That's awesome. And doesn't it kind of just minimize or maybe take away those strong emotional feelings that you might have had with that original story then?
Absolutely.
So when you have that memory, it's not as
intense.
right.
Yeah.
So what is accelerated resolution therapy? If you're doing it for veterans at the Veterans Alternative, post-traumatic growth. Oh, she's wearing a shirt too. And first, before we go to that question, so this shirt, how did you pick this shirt for today?
I went to Brian Anderson's closet this morning. No, I didn't. I wore a beautiful green shirt in here.
And it
And
was
this is only our
lovely.
third episode. We forgot to
Yeah.
write us an email, don't wear green shirts.
So we will have to add that. But it was beautiful. You looked great this morning, as you do now.
Even though this nice brick wall that we have behind us with windows looks really good, it's up there on a green screen, right?
Correct. Yes, I would have been basically a floating head.
Floating head.
With a
So-
necklace, though.
Yes. So Amy was kind enough to don me in Brian's shirt and then cinch it a lot. A lot.
Yeah, a lot.
So, accelerated resolution therapy and the Veterans Alternative. First of all, what's your role there? Let's ask that. What's your role, and how long have you been there? What's your story?
Well, my role is the clinical director, and I've been lucky enough to be around since day one. I had this guy have some faith in me, and
I convinced her to do something that was kind of like jumping off a bridge.
Sort of, yeah.
Out of your safe zone anyway, right?
Yes,
The-
definitely out of my
initially.
safe zone. But I believed in the mission, which is to help our veterans, quite simply. At the end of the day, that's the mission. Help them reintegrate, bring them back home, give them a place that they can come to, which is our team house, and allow them to feel comfortable and to start the healing process, which ART plays an immense part in.
So when you say you're allowing them to come home and you're helping them in that transition, what, in your mind, what do you see as a success for what you do and what the organization does for our warriors?
What I see as a success is when individuals come in, let's say individuals who perhaps haven't left their house in months, quite frankly.
Right.
Individuals who, can't go out and just enjoy life. There's a matter of kind of just existing rather than living. When somebody can come in to the Veterans Alternative and start, getting that camaraderie again with people who've walked their walk and get it, and they come in and they do accelerated resolution therapy, they find resolution with their traumas, they're doing yoga, they're doing iRest, all the other modalities that we provide, and those individuals can start living rather than existing. That's a success to me.
That's awesome.
And it's been pretty remarkable too, just by numbers as well for our retreats. Tell us a little about our retreats and how folks can actually sign up for one of those if they wanted to.
Okay, well, our retreats are for combat veterans, those who have supported in a combat mission and or their significant others. And it's very easy to sign up. Kashi Highness, I always say her name wrong.
It's so hard because
Highness, sorry Kashi.
it's okay, Kashi. We love you.
We always call her Kashi, so.
Yes.
But I call her Kashi.
Yeah, and
that's another
she'll
thing.
answer to either. That's okay. But she's our retreat coordinator, and it's just simply calling her up, doing an intake with her. The retreats are amazing. I'm glad that they're such a big part of what we do. You come in, you receive 5 days of accelerated resolution therapy, 5 days of integrative iRest, which is a really nice, deep self-inquiry meditation process that we use with our warriors.
And we
Use it
talked
every
about
week.
we talked about that too quite a bit on our very first episode with Janelle Norton.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
iRest is a big part of that as well.
Huge. Of course, the camaraderie, physical training, doing gentle yoga, going out, being in the community, breaking bread at night together, all those different pieces is what makes up that retreat program.
Yeah.
And we've been getting awesome numbers, and everybody who comes through really loves that it's like a home-like environment.
It really is built that way where it's a home-like environment. Guys can come in, they can, it's funny, I go up to the center and I see you and I see others all sitting around playing drums. As a matter of fact, the
That's
last few
awesome.
times,
Yeah.
the last few times I called you on the phone,
Yes.
it was during
Music
therapy.
therapy.
So
Yeah.
there's groups that the Veterans Alternative has, and you kind of oversee everything that's kind of happening in there.
Yeah.
So can you tell us about some of the groups and some of the opportunities guys might have to utilize some of the services, something that might attract them to that?
Oh, there's a lot of different groups. Music therapy is one of the pieces that we offer. We're lucky enough to have a really great intern named Jessie who comes in and does that process for our warriors. We do a male support group. It's every other Tuesday. We'll be having one this Tuesday, June 6th at 11 a.m. if you want to come down and, just be amongst individuals who get it, who walk the walk.
Right.
So June 6th, so it would be, what's the following one after that? The 6th, then it would go to the 13th, so the 20th. June 20th would be the next one that we have, right?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
June
We also do a female support group called Faces, and that's for either women who are supporting our combat veterans or women who have been through combat themselves.
Okay.
And just another forum for them to come in, enjoy each other's time. Right now we don't have that meeting set up, but I'll get back to you with that one.
Okay.
Yes, you can look on our Facebook site, it will show that.
And then you have classes that you do throughout the week.
Yeah, we do a little variety of everything from meditation hikes We do, of course, the music groups like we talked about. We do inner resource groups, helping individuals to find that place within where they can feel safe, feel at ease, really generate those feelings of well-being. Lots of different stuff.
And we have a couple of iRest classes and yoga classes that we do on a basically a regular basis, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. It seems like Friday, almost every day of the week, there's something going on.
Yeah.
That's
so,
awesome.
So can you talk to me a little bit about the generations of guys, the people that we have there, because it's a very diverse group that I see at the Veterans Alternative.
Oh, absolutely. A lot of times when our Vietnam vets are coming in, they're a little bit leery, I've heard, through talking with them one-on-one, because there have been so many services for OEF and OIF. And,
OEF,
Right.
OIF is Operation Iraqi Freedom, Operation Enduring Freedom, which is Afghanistan.
yeah, and, they think that this isn't for them. And we serve all different military genres. So
All
everything,
eras.
all
All
eras,
eras and
everything
generations.
from, we were joking around the other day about our World War II veteran who comes in every now and then.
yeah.
He drops off all the information
Yep.
about the American Legion. He keeps us updated and abreast on all the
Yes.
information and news out there.
And we appreciate it. And then, of course, Vietnam, all the way up until, what we're currently.
We got
doing.
several guys at conflicts in between, whether it be Bosnia, Mogadishu, Desert Storm, the first one, and then Iraq and Afghan campaigns. I mean, there's a lot of different types of folks that we have there. So, Allison, I got to tell you, it's definitely a gift to have someone like you at the Veterans Alternative. And I will tell you, the audience, that if you're a veteran or you know a veteran that is, or in the military, that is, it doesn't, I'm not looking for someone who's suffering. If they are suffering, send them our way. But if they're just in a place where, they can improve a little bit, there's something that they can do to help their lives out, give a call. The Veterans Alternative phone number is 727-939-8387. It's right here on the screen, and you can check out our website, veteransalternative.org. You have wonderful people like Ali V here, who just really makes a difference in folks' lives. So, and it becomes a family.
It
Absolutely.
really is, isn't it?
Yeah.
So listen, this is the last of this part of the segment. We're going to come back with my good buddy, Ben Smet. He is working on a transitional task force for Congressman Gus Bilirakis, trying to figure out the best ways that we can actually transition from the military to civilian world. Stay tuned. We'll see you when we get back. Thank you, Ali V.
Thank you.
The Edge, Fridays at noon. If you're an entrepreneur looking for cutting edge information, tips, tricks, secrets, expert interviews, it's all here at The Edge. Anything you need to build your business, this is the show to listen to. It's The Edge. Check us out Fridays at noon.
Ever need a doctor after hours? Well, searching won't help. But what do? You could go to the urgent care or ER, but if only there was a better way. Introducing the MNO Plus Card. No waiting rooms, no copay, no consultation fee, giving you 24/7 access to a doctor by phone or online. It's easy to get started with affordable plans starting at $15 a month for a family of 5. For more information, visit mnoplus.com today.
Welcome back, and we are now joined with my good friend Ben Smet, soon to be Dr. Smet,
Oh.
Hopefully, if all goes well.
Wow.
if all goes well.
That's right.
I alluded a little bit to some of the awesome things that this guy is working on right now, but it's a transitional task force.
That's right. That's correct.
What is a transitional task force? And it's with Congressman Gus Bilirakis' office, correct?
That's correct.
Can you tell us a little bit about it and what you're trying to do?
Yeah. Well, of course, Congressman Gus Bilirakis has been, his leadership has been essential to veterans He's the vice chair of the Veterans Affairs Committee for Congress, and he's already spearheaded a lot of legislation for the alternative forms of therapy.
Yep.
And after having lunch with him at one point, he caught wind that I was a doctoral student looking for a dissertation.
Right.
But I think he was looking for an opportunity to start looking at veterans transition from a more holistic perspective, not concentrating merely on the more horrific aspects of war and veterans coming back with PTS, hopefully for post-traumatic growth.
Post-traumatic stress to
Post-traumatic
post-traumatic growth.
growth.
Yeah, it's
Right.
a different idea.
But
ideology.
looking at veterans, all veterans coming back, because about 12 to 13% actually experience combat, yet the numbers show in survey data that 55% of all veterans report transitional issues or not feeling prepared for civilian life again after they get out.
Sure, sure.
So the task force, he asked me to kind of lead up a task force of other fellow veterans and healthcare providers and whatnot to look at veterans transition from a little bit more holistic perspective.
I'm actually lucky. I get to work with Ben on this
Yeah,
project.
and it's been great too, by the way. I really appreciate it.
It's an enormous project, and you put together a pretty detailed report, or basically step forward for
Right.
us, innovating a better way. So can you tell me a little bit about what your thought process is on going forward, what your plan is, your plan of action for coming up with some kind of thought process with transition?
Yeah, well, the premise in what you're referring to is kind of like a foundation document, a framework. And the premise is as a country, we've really looked at veterans' issues kind of from a healthcare perspective, looking at, of course, always the most horrific aspects of war. Our intentions are good. We care for our veterans, obviously. But the premise here is to bring in diversity of thought and ideas from all different types of stakeholders, the veterans themselves, of course, but healthcare providers, folks that concentrate on homelessness issues.
But the reality is you're talking about a lot of different groups.
Right, exactly.
And part of the problem that I've seen is really something that you and I talked about, the silos.
Yes. Can you tell us what you mean by silence?
Well, so that's a great segue for what I was trying to say. We're well-intentioned in this country, and we look to take care of our veterans. At every war we've fought, at every point we've elevated our game in terms of how we look after and take care of veterans. After World War I, the Congress enacted laws to really prolificate veterans hospitals. After World War II, of course, the GI Bill and et cetera. After Vietnam, we learned about this concept called post-traumatic stress.
Yep.
So what is our legacy going to be after our Operation Enduring Freedom and Iraqi Freedom?
Right.
Which is the longest war that
Two
we've,
of the longest wars we've
been
ever
at war
fought.
for 16 years.
Exactly, and not only that, but for the first time in our history, it's an all-volunteer force.
Yeah.
So we're sending our troops back again and again and again. So we're not really still sure what all the consequences are of that.
Right.
But what I meant by silos, and it's not in a negative, we've had some of our best thinkers and researchers and professionals looking at these issues, but always through the lens of singular issues,
Sure.
such as PTS, such
Kind of
as
fragmented. It's not like there's not someone pulling those things together.
Exactly. There's very few people that I've been able to look through in the research that have really looked at it from a perspective of the whole veteran. So, for example, we're really good at how do we prepare a human being for combat or war. We have basic training for starters and follow-on trainings.
Sure.
But then when they're coming out or we're decommissioning the soldier, there's nothing really equivalent that exists.
Yeah.
What we do very well is if a veteran comes back and exhibits symptoms of post-traumatic stress, and here's the sad part, if we can connect with them and get them connected to the VA or to your
That's
wonderful
probably
organization.
difficult.
And that's something that I've talked about quite a bit is not just the veteran organizations and researchers and all these different groups that are trying to help warriors out.
Right.
Not only do I see those guys kind of fragmented in a way, they're siloed out, they're broken apart from each other, but I was talking to you about this yesterday. Our veterans do the same thing.
Right.
They break out into, like, they leave the military and then they go off into silos. They break away from
Right.
everybody
Right.
else.
Well, that comes back to my point about how survey data consistently shows on different polls that nearly 50% or 55% in the latest case of all military veterans, male, female, combat, non-combat, report that they feel disconnected from
Right.
civilian life. And I think it has a lot to do with the 2 longest wars in all volunteer force.
I would think that a lot of folks, and this is just my thought, that may be labeled with PTS symptoms because of that when they get
Transitional
home. That
anxiety.
it's really
Right.
something more like you said, transitional anxiety.
Those things that, yeah.
Some of those symptoms are just that siloing and taking time off to themselves and stuff might be similar.
So you were talking a lot about you started talking about 55% of the stats that go along with it. So in this effort that you're putting together for transition, is there something that you're doing to kind of take a look at the ideas that you might have about transition?
Well, yeah, I think the best part of our effort of this task force is bringing together diversity of thought, diverse ideas. And we're going to do that in several different ways, but we're trying to bring together as many divergent problem solvers and thinkers, innovators, to look at it really holistically.
To get a real varied perspective then
Yeah.
and get it all around perspective.
Yeah, interconnected, because we have a lot of experts that have looked at things, and we've got a lot of data, and we've got a lot of, we've grown a lot in certain areas. ART,
Accelerated resolution therapy.
Right.
and others. This
And
stuff
you heard a little bit about that from Alice in the last
segment.
Yeah.
And so we've gotten really good at these things. It's time to now combine our efforts to look at the transitioning veteran, and I should add their families as well.
Sure,
Because
sure.
that's their number one, really, most of them, their number one support
Yeah.
Yep.
mechanism. And let's not forget, the families of our military go through quite a bit too when their loved ones are deployed.
Oh, definitely. Ben, can you tell us more about your plans with Collaborative Labs?
Yeah, so Collaborative Labs is a really cool facility. It's part of the innovation process. It's a technology-rich facility at the St.
I love-
Petersburg College.
I've been there. It's amazing.
There's whiteboards everywhere, and I love whiteboards.
Yes, you do. And we get a lot done on whiteboards. Sometimes
do.
it's just the good old-fashioned whiteboards,
The
and we
kick-
got to creatively brainstorm. But the cool thing
Yeah.
about these labs is besides the whiteboards, it's also technology-rich, and it can accommodate up to about 150 people.
The capabilities seem amazing.
Yeah, and those 150, so we're trying to generate a dialogue. Again, try to collect diversity of thought and
All those
ideas.
perspectives, yeah.
And to do that with 150 people in one room in a circle, it can be quite challenging. But what Collaborative Labs does so well is they divide that large group into small nodes connected through technology, big giant screens, touch screens, and
Right.
they can
It kind
interact
of
with
it
each
kind of
other.
looks like this little depiction right here. It's interesting how it all kind of comes back in and brings it. First of all, you have information that's going out from like almost a central place, and then all these different nodes out here is bringing the information back in.
Exactly, and it's recording everything in real time. So as we on the task force continue to generate our hopefully 3 plans we're going to deliver to Congressman Bilirakis by mid-August ahead of the recess, we can get feedback from up to 100 in this
That's
case it's going to be
amazing.
100 people.
What's the demographics of those folks?
Well, we were strategic in planning that out as well. We're going to target 100 individuals. 50 are going to be veterans themselves.
Yep.
And then the other 50 are going to be providers to veterans of various forms. And again, I really want to get out of the silo of just looking at it purely as a health concern for veterans, but as a public health epidemic
Right.
for all citizens. And so we need to look at it not just from health, but the criminal justice system, because a lot of veterans with PTS
Yeah.
are getting, homelessness, unfortunately, education. So we're going to have stakeholders and experts from all these various fields that are providers of veterans benefits coming together to look at this thing.
You know that path to walk and transition. It's a very thin path, and it's easy to step off it and just fall into some trouble as a veteran himself.
It sure is. My own military experience, I'm a Navy veteran. I was serving from 2001 to 2009. I didn't experience combat. I was on the closest I came to action. I was on an aircraft carrier for 3 years, and we went deployed 3 different times there. I came out of that experience from 2001 to 2009 with my own anxiety issues for
A little
few
bit of
years.
transition
Oh,
issues
absolutely.
yourself.
I mean, I was used to things being, really regimented.
Yeah.
And I got to a civilian world that I left. I came back to my hometown where I grew up, and I found it very difficult to interact with even my closest friends. When I would talk about the experience from 01 to 09 that I had when these 2 longest wars happened, they just couldn't relate, and I felt angry about that. I felt angry that they couldn't relate to what I was doing.
So 09 is when you got out of the military.
All right, that's right.
And since then, you've just been a schoolaholic.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. Yeah, much to my kids' chagrin. Yeah, they tease me all the time, like, "Daddy, I miss the old days." I'm like, "You're 9 years old. What do you mean old days?"
What
And he
are the
goes,
old days?
when you were around more, and because I did deploy 3 different times, and in the Navy, it wasn't just deployments, but in and out quite a bit. And I miss a lot of their first years, and now, I'm working full time and trying to pursue a doctorate degree. But thanks to the
Very
GI Bill.
busy, yeah.
Yeah, thanks to so we've evolved at every stage, after every war. What are we going to do now, at the end
That's
of these
the
2 longest
question,
wars?
Yeah.
What's
I
our
think
legacy
you're
going to
onto
be?
something though with this task force
Thank you,
for
yeah.
transition.
Yeah,
Definitely.
and this was the task force. It was kind of like your brainchild too, wasn't it?
Well, so I can't take all the credit. No, it was a lunch with Congressman Bilirakis.
Yeah.
I'm involved in other alternate forms of therapy. The Veterans Arts Center, Tampa Bay.
Yep.
First
That's
art center
that's
dedicated.
Mac, right?
Yeah, Major Mac Maxim.
Yep.
Dedicated to alternate forms of therapy through art, and we were having lunch actually representing that, and we, at a table with I think 7 or 8 of us, and we all kind of started to theorize about, well, why do we just keep looking at it from these one perspectives?
Yeah.
And Congressman Bilirakis, thanks to his leadership, as always, supporting veteran issues, said, "Ben, let's see if we can do something about this."
That's awesome.
I got to tell you, Congressman Gus Bilirakis is definitely a fighter and a warrior for our veteran population. And the very first time he's told me something or asked me, "Hey, I want you to do this," how can you say no?
Right.
How can you say no? He's extremely genuine and authentic, and I'm thankful for him, and I'm thankful for you, Ben.
It's an honor
Thank
to
you for
work.
being on the show.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, and guys, stay tuned for our next episode next week on Thursday, 5 p.m. We can't wait to see you there.